After I joined the army a few months later, I was assigned from one unit to another. And a few friends of mine challenged me not to move to the new unit. The new unit meant that we're going to be in the front lines, that there will be danger for our lives. But I decided to move forward and move into the new unit. Following week on a Sunday when we were driving to the location of the new unit, we heard that there was a suicide attack at the location where my old unit used to meet every Sunday. It's a day I'll never forget in my life. In the evenings, the names of those who have died started to come. 21 soldiers and 1 civilian died in that attack, and among those soldiers were those close friends who have challenged me not to move to the new unit. That was a day that I've lost hope for life. That was a day that I've lost hope for this country, for Israel. Those friends died during the peace process where our beloved Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was willing to give up land for peace and having peace negotiations, and we have lost many dear lives during that time by terrorists who want nothing but to see Israel being destroyed. After I finished the army, I moved back to my old life. My job was a disc jockey in nightclubs, and a few months after I finished the army, another close friend of mine died in the southern part of Lebanon back in the day that Israel was still there. That was the day that I decided I'm going to leave this country. I could not handle the pain anymore, and I was tired of seeing that horrible thing called death all around me. So I left Israel and I found myself, after a short stop in England, in the US. In the US I was invited to come and see a church, and as a young Israeli man, I was really curious to see what the church is all about. What I knew of the church is that it's a boring place with boring people, but more importantly, what I knew about Christians is that it was Christians who have been doing what they've done in the Holocaust to the Jewish people. The Nazis were Christians. That's how I grew up with that knowledge. So when I arrived to the church, meeting nice people, very warm and loving people, was a big surprise for me. At one of the services, the pastor was talking about personal relationship with God. And he made a statement that really made me angry. He said that the Jewish people think that they know God, but they don't know God in a personal way. He was talking about a man named Jesus that said, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father but through me." And when I heard this statement, I thought that he's attacking the Jewish people and he's talking against us. So I went and I asked challenged the pastor at the end of the service, asking him, "How come you talk about my people that way?" He asked me if I ever read the Old Testament. I told him sometimes when I was young, "Have you ever read the New Testament?" I asked him, "What is the New Testament?" I really didn't know what the New Testament is all about. He told me, "Go home and read it and come back and talk with me." I went home very angry, but before I share with you the rest of my testimony, I just want to encourage you with something. I personally don't like the terms Old and New Testament. We believe in one Bible. Many prophecies have not been fulfilled yet. How can it be old? How do you say that, or anyone can say that they know the one and only true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if they don't read from Genesis 1 and don't read the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? I want to encourage all of you who see this to really open the Bible and read from the book of Genesis and have a better understanding and knowledge of who that God is, who it is, the one that we believe in, the one and only true God there is. Back to my testimony, or to my story, I went back home and I was looking for something to read, and I found a small book called Why Me? It's a testimony of another Israeli guy. But I didn't know that it is his testimony, that this is his story. I just saw a book and I wanted to read it, and I liked the title, Why Me? So I started to read the book, and the book is filled with prophecies and the fulfillment of the prophecies. And at the end of reading the book, I just had no doubt that God is real, and that Yeshua is indeed the promised Messiah of Israel and of the world. And I asked him to forgive me for my sins, and I asked him to come into my life. And since then I've started the most exciting journey that I could ever be on. And God gave me a ministry called Hope for Israel. And our main goal is to bring Yeshua, whom you know is Jesus, back home, back to Israel. So the Jewish people will know who he is and will ask him to come into their lives as well. We do it through making disciples. Yeshua said to go and make disciples of all nations, to immerse them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then he said one of the most important things, but in many places they are being skipped. He said to teach them to obey everything that I have commanded, that he has commanded. And that's our main emphasis, is to teach people to obey everything that he has commanded, and not just to teach through what the word says by empty lip service or empty words, but through our actions. To teach people how to apply God's word into our lives and to live and display the faith that we believe in. The people in Israel are tired of religion. They want something. And what we can give them is that answer. We can give them faith. And faith is something that comes from the inside outside. It's not something that from the outside that stays outside. And that's really what we do. We're making disciples here. We have humanitarian aid here that we are helping war victims. There are constant conflicts in different parts of the land. And we are helping those people who have been affected from the Israeli side by the war. And when I say from the Israeli side, it doesn't matter if it's Jews or Arabs. We are helping all people. And by moving them from the war-affected areas and placing them in safe shelters, and then helping their businesses that have been destroyed to get back on their feet. We also have a youth ministry that it's a group of youth from 6 or 7 different congregations here in Jerusalem. We have about 40 kids that we teach what it means to be a believer. We teach them unity. We prepare them for the future. We desire to see those young men and women standing strong for God and displaying what they believe and being the witness. They are the future generation and the most important people here to invest in, because this is the future, as I said. We also have an active help for those who are being persecuted by persecutors. In Israel, there is a lot of persecutions against believers, and it's our obligation to come alongside of those who are being persecuted and just love them, hug them, help them to get healed and get back in the battlefield again. And we can't forget those who are being persecuted. There are many people who are hungry here in Israel as a result of the constant conflict, the constant war that is happening. A lot of the budget, the majority of the budget in Israel is going for the security. And therefore many people are hungry. There's also a lot of immigrants who came to Israel from different countries of the world, and they're being hungry. And we help them. Yeshua said to feed the poor. And I don't want to be one of the people that hears the words, I was hungry and you didn't feed me. So this is who we are. We are here to bring the hope of the Messiah back home, back to Israel. And I want to invite you to partner with us in that effort. Thank you, and shalom from Jerusalem.
It would be easier for him to explain all that than me. So. He claims to hate public speaking, but he does pretty well. All right.
This is at the top of Mount Carmel. Pretty cool sign, right? So we didn't actually spend very long up there. Our tour is very quick and go. It was very scheduled and on time, but I would like to spend more time there, but it was very cool. We had a little sermon up there, and we spent about 5 minutes after that up there. So we did not spend a terribly long time there, but it was a good sight.
Of course, where Elijah called fire down from heaven. So, pretty good.
These are some rocks that we saw. Mom's gonna have to recall what those
I
are.
don't know, I gotta see it.
Is it on this screen here?
I guess the window.
No.
Oh.
That is at Caesarea Maritima, the likely location where Paul was held there by Herod.
These are toilets, believe it or not. You sit between those little things, and you go, and there was running water. They had very intricate systems of flowing water to get down. So that was just funny, cool.
Yeah, the funny part, I could go back to that picture for a second. The funniest part about that picture is actually at the entrance, the main gate going into a hippodrome, and this is at Caesarea Maritima as well. So if you went to the horse races and you wanted to use the bathroom, you just went.
Just went there.
This is where Druze people.
Nope.
No.
This is Mount Gerizim.
But this is where they think that Abraham tried to sacrifice Isaac. But go ahead.
Yeah, top of Mount Gerizim. There's still a Samaritan village there today. These are the ruins of an ancient Samaritan village. A little fact I didn't know is that there are still Samaritans today, but there's only 627. They have an exact number. That was of then. I'm sure that's changed, but they have a lot of genetic problems because a Samaritan can only marry another Samaritan. So,
This is also in the same place, right?
This is
It's
live.
nothing.
Oh, it's on my phone. Y'all can see that. Sharon, it's not working.
It's all right, we'll fix this. We'll fix it. Hold on. There you go.
There.
Okay. That's another toilet. Yeah.
That was my guess.
Third picture of the toilet.
did we skip some pictures?
Yeah. We'll get back around to them.
All right, so this is at the city of David, actually. And this is how they knew that this person that lived in this house, this is down below the city walls. They knew that the person that lived in this house was very wealthy because of the fact that they had a toilet.
So that's not an incredibly great picture, but it's the walkway into Pool Siloam. And if you can see that little sign with the little warning triangle in the back, that's where it would have been. There's no water in there, and the plot of land that's right next to it they think is a bigger part of it, but the neighboring owners refuse to sell. They've named any price, and they won't sell. So that's as far as the construction there is gone. So there wasn't a whole lot to see there other than the steps down into it.
Well, the Pool of Siloam was used as a mikveh, which is a ceremonial bath. You dip yourself into it 7 times to cleanse yourself before you go into the temple. This was a public one. You can see those holes in the rock. They would have had some poles they'd set up there to divide it for men and women to go in and use the mikveh. And the water for this was provided from the Gihon spring. King Hezekiah had built a 1,760-foot tunnel through solid limestone to circulate water through Jerusalem. And that's how that pool was filled.
Then there's me reading the story of Luke, and the city behind me is Bethlehem. And you can't see it in this picture. One of the pictures coming up, they're not in order, so we don't know. One of them coming up, you can see where the trails are actually grooved into the ground from where shepherds would have walked and had their animals going through, and just a probable place. So I wish I had more pictures of this, but that's a bomb shelter that we painted. And so basically they have, from this place where we're at is 2 miles away from where they were launching these rockets, and they have 15 seconds to get to someplace safe. And so this was just to make it more cheerful, I guess, in that situation. But we painted flowers on it, and we built a greenhouse. I didn't help with that project. Painted fences, sanded fences, and we did 2 other bunkers kind of like that. But yeah, those people are very determined to stay in their community. They do not want to leave.
This is one of the places that Hope for Israel has This community had basically gone away. It was a kibbutz, which is a socialist, basically a socialist farm. But that community had basically died. Everybody had left. Hope for Israel went in and helped them reestablish. They put bomb shelters in. They put, it's not a bomb-proof house, but they have a lot of safety glass, place for older people to be. And these people, it's not like the work we were doing here was so terribly important, but they were so happy to see us, that we were there, that we were hearing their stories, and that somebody was aware of what was happening there. So it was pretty neat to talk to them.
That's Marcy back there. She was in charge. So back there, that city line is the Gaza Strip. That's where they're sending the rockets from, and so that's about 2 miles away from where we were. We didn't get incredible pictures there because there's a lot of military equipment that you are not allowed to take pictures of, obviously, for reasons. But that just goes to show how close they are to that danger.
It was really hazy that day, and there was a lot actually going on there, but like she said, we were not allowed to take many pictures unless we wanted to become permanent guests of Israel. You can see the white tower in the foreground. That's a watchtower right on the border. The field you can see, those are in Gaza. Just to the south of there, they were protesting. There was huge black smoke rising, and there was a lot of military activity behind us. They were doing some kind of monitoring with some kind of equipment that gave off a lot of radiation, so we had to make a wide circle around them. This is also where they found a lot of the tunnels, where they recently tunneled under. And their goal was to go to the very kibbutz where we had just been and just kill as many people as possible. However, the Israeli military intercepted those people, 12 of them, before they did any damage. So
that's us in the Old World Market. Saying that right? That's the other Melissa. I loved Melissa. She was cool. I'd like to think that I'm like her.
She is Darren Bannock's sister. Darren Bannock is the pastor of East Haven Baptist in Kalispell.
She took us around the old city, but that was after hours, basically, where we got to do our own thing, so that's not essential to the operation. Sharon?
I don't know what I did. Hold on. That was the wrong thing. Technical difficulties. Maybe.
And now it's white.
We had it for a second.
There we go.
It's going to go to a white one after that, but then it'll keep going.
Okay.
All right, so this is part of the Children's Memorial at Yad Vashem.
Yad Vashem is a Holocaust museum in Israel. Just so you know. No.
Of course, everything in Israel is very full of symbolism. The museum itself is built. It's a concrete triangle, and it's built in a kind of a U shape. So when you enter into this black hole, and you walk down the middle of this tunnel, basically. As you go down, as you enter, you're descending. When you get to the lowest part, they have the displays dealing with the death camps. And then as you begin to ascend the other side, you can see the light at the other end. And as things begin to get resolved, and the Holocaust comes to an end, you exit out the other side. I think you could probably spend weeks here. We had an hour, and it was too much time and not enough time all at once because it was very intense. They had a children's memorial. This is not it. This is actually just a memorial for every victim. But they had a children's memorial, and it was a domed building. It's completely dark inside, and they had a lot of mirrors. So there's actually one candle, but the way they had the mirrors set up, you could see 1.5 million candles, just the reflections of them. And it was for every baby and child that had been killed in the Holocaust. They would read their names and ages and their country, and it takes them, is it 3 months?
3.5 months
to read through the list of names.
And that's going around 24/7, like day and night,
Yeah.
getting through that list. And that's supposed to symbolize a chimney, the spirit of all the people going up to heaven after being murdered. White slide. I actually really enjoyed the story after this. I don't remember any of the names, let alone could pronounce them if I could. But basically, the man in the back, he ran an orphanage in the what are they called? The hood? Ghetto, yeah. The ghetto. So he ran an orphanage in the ghetto, and towards the end of the Holocaust, our picture's gone. During the end of the Holocaust, they came for the kids, and they took them all, and since he was not Jewish, basically the police had told him, this is your out, you can leave now, and we're not going to take you. And he refused. Multiple times he wouldn't leave his kids, and so when they were being led into the gas chambers, he was the only one who knew it was coming, and before they all left, he told them to take their favorite toys, and so they would go in with good feelings, like they wouldn't know it was coming. But I just thought that was an incredible story of just how he didn't take an out. He stood for his children. That's me with a bunch of fruit.
This is in the old city market.
We got to have lunch there. We had Lebanese food. That's the Jordan River down there. It's not an amazing picture, but that's Jordan right across in their tower over there.
That is a monastery in Jordan.
So maybe we'll have a better picture than that.
Okay, we'll get there.
Okay, maybe.
You will.
All right. So that's in Jericho. That was right after we went to the Jordan, and we went to the Restaurant of Temptation. That's me riding a camel forcibly. He just grabbed me and threw me on there. It was terrifying. It's like when you get on, he's laying down. Like, it's not like you walk on the stairs and get on it, and he rocks back and forth. It felt like you're gonna get bucked off.
Okay, go back to this Restaurant of Temptation.
Okay, the Restaurant of Temptation was a big buffet, and I thought the sign was hilarious because nothing was spelled right, so it's like, you get chicken. This is in Jericho, and it's just some of the outlines. I hope we have this picture in here, but if we don't get to it, I'll just talk about it now.
Actually, these are two separate city walls. This is where Rahab's house would have been. It's located between these two city walls because all the poor people would live there. It was kind of interesting to see that.
But when they marched around Jericho and then destroyed it by fire, there's actually large sediments of ash still stuck in the walls. So I just thought that was super interesting just to see that was still there.
And you could also see the mud bricks where they had tumbled down. Archaeological evidence supports the biblical account 100% there, which is very neat to see.
This, I think, is the Church of the Rock.
Church of All Nations.
Church of All Nations. There, it's right by the Garden of Gethsemane, and it's where they think was the rock that Jesus was sweating blood on. And so it was crazy in there. People were lining up to go kiss the rock, to go kneel on it. It was very beautiful. The roof had mosaic all over it. I don't know if you can see it well.
The roof was designed to look like an Olive Garden at night. There you go.
Yeah, the garden at night. And there was mosaic everywhere. It was really beautiful. I can't remember what gate this is. This is the one.
These are the golden gates. So the Jewish people believe that when the Messiah comes, he will come to the top of Mount of Olives, and then he will walk across the brook of Kidron through these golden gates to the Temple Mount. So this is currently in the Arab or Muslim quarter. So they have blocked off the gates, and they put a Muslim cemetery there, so to prevent this from happening, supposedly. On the other hand, all the Jewish people want to be buried on the Mount of Olives because those will be the first people resurrected, according to what they believe.
That's on the way down from the Mount of Olives, but I think it's a Christian cemetery.
It's just a little Christian cemetery.
That's on top of Mount of Olives. Those are all the people who want to be there. And it's extremely expensive to get a spot there. By this point now, I think they said that the only way you could be buried on there is if your family's already had a plot there. That is at the garden too. Oh,
Nobody can see it but you.
That's nice.
Give it a second. The computer's trying to struggle with all the pictures.
That's the entrance. So I didn't get good pictures when you're in there. It was very, very small, but that was a very emotional spot just to be in there. We took communion while we were there, which was cool. That's just a cool sign we had.
They believe this is where Jesus was buried, but they don't know for sure. I don't know if we have a picture of the wine press or not, but there's a wine press just in front, which has been very well preserved. Hill of the Skull, or Golgotha, is there. It was much easier to see 60 or 70 years ago, but it's not preserved, so it's mostly worn away. You can see in the pictures that it did look like a skull at one time.
So in Moran's testimony, this is what he's talking about, the memorial for the suicide attack where 21 21 or 22?
22.
22 people were killed, all of which were soldiers except for one person. But this is where we went first, so we could recognize the people who were and still are being affected by incidents like this. And so it is symbolizing all those people, and they didn't put any distinctions to make it look like they all look the same is the point. Like, God sees us all the same. He loves us all equally, and so that's just to symbolize going up to heaven.
This was a double suicide bombing at a junction where military personnel would gather after the weekend to take buses back to their units or wherever they were stationed. So there was a considerable number of military personnel gathered there, and a man dressed in a Israeli military uniform wandered into the middle of the intersection, crying for help. He was having a heart attack, and as soon as people rushed to help him, he blew himself up. And so then, of course, there was another scene of carnage, and more people gathered to help those people, and then the second guy came along and blew himself up. I think this event probably affected almost every person we talked to while we were in Israel, one way or another.
This is at the top of
Megiddo.
Megiddo.
So yeah, that's looking off of Megiddo. So what you see in the distance is Jezreel Valley. The Battle of Armageddon will take place there somewhere.
This is also, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. This is also on the top of Armageddon. You can go through the ruins there, and this is that circular thing right there is where Molech, or I can't say it right, but Molech, best as I know. This is where they would sacrifice to that false god, and they were very intricate in doing so because they had actually constructed a lever pull machine where it would roll children into the fire that was up there.
So Molech was a Canaanite god. They had constructed this idol in such a way that his stomach was a furnace. So, and he had his hands were outstretched like this. They would place a baby in his hands, and when they would pull the lever, his arms would raise and the baby would fall into the furnace, and that was how they worshiped their god.
Sorry for the sketchy panoramic view. That's why the wires are all messed up, but this was actually a grain silo they had there on the hill. And if you can you can not really tell, but there's two sets of stairways coming down.
Mm-hmm.
One was for in and one was for out, just because two people couldn't go up and down at the same time. So
yeah, that silo would hold 100 tons of grain. So if there was a siege or famine or whatever, they had a good supply. And there are actually 26 separate layers of settlement at this tell at Megiddo. And they've excavated the top 4. So quite a bit happened there. This location controlled the trade route between Mesopotamia and Egypt, so it was very strategically important.
this is also the little tunnel he had dug underneath just for water. It was a water system, sorry.
So King Ahab did this. The water source for Megiddo was originally outside the city, and of course, if you were under attack, that was a really bad thing. So they got a group together. They said it was just residents, not slaves, because they could not have afforded to feed them at that time. But one group started at one end and one at the other, and they were a foot off in the middle somehow. And you can walk. We walked through it, just straight as a string, through solid limestone. How they did it with the technology they had then, I don't know. 70 meters long to bring the water source inside.
I had one picture, but I'm not sure if we got it on here, but you can actually see like pick marks or whatever they would have used. Like they'll point out all the scratch marks that you can still are really obvious that you can see. So that was neat. This is at, I can't remember the name.
Bet Shean.
Yeah.
Good thing she took you.
Yeah.
So in the back you can see the tell of Bet Shan. So this would have been Old Testament Bet Shan. This is where King Saul and his sons would have hung from the city walls. We did not go up there. They've done some excavating. I think they said there's 20 layers of settlement there, of different settlements, which is why, there was originally not a hill there. That is just how that was formed. The part we toured was the Roman city, and this was a city, was a member of the Decapolis. It was a thriving Roman city. They had some amazing bathhouses and architecture. Can't really see in these pictures really good, but If you look in the center, you can see that is a city street, and on each side you see the columns. On each side of the street, they would have had covered roofs where you could shop, and they had fountains, and they had bathhouses, and it was extremely nice for the day. They had a theater that would seat 3,500 people.
This is at the Dan, the
This is the Israelites.
The-
Dan.
what is it called? What are we looking at? Oh,
This is at the
yes. But the nature reserve. That's what it is. That's
Nature
what it's
reserve.
called. Dan Nature Reserve. And this is about pretty much, you're most of the way through the walk by this point on the trail. But if you can see those, you can see 3 of them because people are blocking it. But the 4 or 3 circular bowl-looking things at the bottom, that's actually where people of importance would sit, and those would be having posts coming out of it to create a sunshade for them. So if someone was sitting there and saying something, everyone would just listen up.
the city gates were where everything happened. So this is actually probably where the king would sit, and then where the other people are sitting, there was a bench there, and that is where the elders would sit. So all the announcements, all the gossips, that's where everybody was. Everything happened in most of these cities.
This is also at Dan, and it is ruins of.
So this is a Canaanite gate. It's because tribe of Dan actually pushed the Canaanites out of this area. This is the original Canaanite gate. Pretty recent excavation. Abraham would have pursued Lot's captors as far as this gate, so Abraham likely stood in this very spot.
So Nicole, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are things built on top? Like shouldn't
Well,
it be excavating, or is it just dirt?
In this location they are, because this is earlier building, so it was mud brick and stucco, so not nearly as durable as a lot of the other places where it was just straight stone, so they did build that over there to protect it.
This is at this is supposedly where the bleeding woman's house, like, this is what it would have looked like.
Did we tell Dan already?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, one other thing about Tel Dan, I don't know if we have a picture of it because our pictures are kind of scrambled for some reason, but you were able to see the altar where Jeroboam placed the golden calf, so his people didn't have to travel so far to Jerusalem to worship. One thing the archaeologists say is that they can always tell if an altar is for a false god or for the true God, because if it is for God, there will be a ramp built up to the altar. If it's for a false god, there are stairs. All the priests wore robes, and obviously you didn't want them walking upstairs because tighty-whities hadn't been introduced yet, and they would defile the site. So that's actually one of the things they used when they're excavating.
So, back to this picture. This is likely what the bleeding woman's house would have looked like, and we spent a lot more time there, but
Yeah, so that was Caesarea Maritima. I know.
hold on, I'm sorry. Going crazy over here. Okay. There we go.
Oh.
No!
It'll
There we
catch up.
Here, right here.
Caesarea Philippi, or Banias or Panias. There were a lot of different parts. The part we toured was mainly the temple to the god Pan. He was half goat, half man. Very pagan city. Jesus didn't actually enter it. On the outskirts of the city is where Peter declared Jesus to be Messiah for the first time. They believe they found the actual house of the bleeding woman. They had a lot of facts for it. I don't remember now.
This is at Mount Nimrod's Fortress. That's right. So that's just a pretty panoramic view of it. I hope we have more pictures of it because that was really neat. Quite the hike.
So Nimrod's fortress controlled the trade routes between Egypt and Damascus. During the time of the Crusaders, the Arabs actually built it, and then they gave it to the Crusaders in a treaty. It changed hands several times. Every time it changed hands, they built on it some more. It's just amazing architecture and design.
This is just another view from up top.
It is right next to Mount Hermon.
I guess we want to talk about that more because we'll skip there. This is a This is a view of the Sea of Galilee, and this is from the spot where they have a whole lot of evidence that is probable that that is where Jesus cast out the demons from Legion and forced them into the pigs, and they ran off the cliff. And we had a sermon here, and so you can't see it quite, but right behind Isaac, he's in the red, he was our guide. Down that hill from him is where the cave is, where they think he lived.
The tombs where the possession man lived.
And the water level at that time would have been much higher, hence it would have been a cliff, actual cliff, not a beach. So there was a load of evidence there, and it was really cool to see.
They just recently excavated those tombs, didn't know they were there until probably 5 years ago. So just more evidence that it's likely that's the spot where that occurred.
Mm-hmm.
This is the boat we were on at the Sea of Galilee. This was basically our church service, but on Saturday it was their Shabbat, and so they played music, and we got to have a morning ride on the Sea of Galilee. And we had a little sermonette, per se, from Moran, so
that kept telling us we needed to be brave enough to step off the boat, but nobody did.
And right after we got off the boat, we on the land, we went to look at the boat that had been found. I don't know how many years ago, but it was during really dry years, like dry winters of Israel, and so they just found old nails, and they dug straight down and found this boat. And so we watched a little 12-minute video about how they got it out without destroying it and how they're preserving it. And then I have pictures of it, but you can see those charts in the back. It'll show you the types of nails and wood that was used. They say this. A lot of people believe this is the actual boat that Jesus was in, but they haven't proved that.
It's likely it was just a fishing boat,
yeah,
but from that same time.
But it was been the same style that he would have been in. There's another. Just kidding. Here's another view, like, of the inside of how it was constructed. It just looked like a big piece of bark to me. And right after that, we went to Capernaum, and we had a sermon there and toured.
So Capernaum, of course, is where Jesus spent most of his time during his ministry. He picked many of his apostles from there. You could see the house. They believed that was Peter's. They built a church over it to protect it, of course. Also a synagogue that Jesus likely preached in.
That building is where they built the synagogue over the top of it.
I wouldn't know. This is the house they believe was Peter's house.
That's what I thought, yeah. So, and then that is a mikveh, right?
No, this is the original synagogue where Jesus may have preached. You can see it's very tiny. You're looking down at it, of course, but there's another synagogue built over the top of it.
This is just some pretty carvings I liked. Oh, I'm sorry.
It just takes it a second.
Probably sounds like I'm a schizophrenic. But those are just to show you how intricate things were constructed. There's a sign. We're at the St. Peter's Primacy.
So this is the location they believe that where Jesus appeared to the disciples for the third time. Told Peter that he was the rock upon which he would build his church. And then they proceeded to build a church. I believe it was the Byzantine pilgrims proceeded to build a church upon the rock where Jesus likely ate fish with his disciples. At that site, there's a bunch of warm water springs that run into the water, so the disciples would have fished there a lot, attracted the fish.
That's the statue that's there whenever Christ is telling Peter,
"You are the rock upon which I'll build my church."
This is at Magdala, and fun fact, so they found it by, they were constructing a hotel there, and so they had to stop construction, and they reported it, and so after they're done excavating it now, and now they're gonna continue building the hotel. It is booked for the next 10 years solid, straight through, because people want to stay there.
They actually started the excavations for this hotel in 2004. Had no idea what anything was there, and since have found all kinds of amazing discoveries. Magdala Stone. I don't know if we have a picture of it.
Yeah, it's coming up, I think. No. Here's some of the ruins at Magdala.
it was kind of interesting. They had a live fish market here. You could see where they had channeled the waters from the Sea of Galilee, so that when you went shopping, you netted a fish out of the little enclosure and away you went. It was kind of neat. Oh, that is the Stone of Magdala, that square thing you can see in the middle. If you're interested in it, it is pretty interesting. You can go online, they have really good pictures of it. There's a lot of symbolic Jewish imagery on it, including a picture of the Second Temple. They don't know exactly what it was used for. They think probably just to hold scrolls. But it is pretty interesting to look at it close up.
This is a church that is right in Magdala. Explain the boat.
It's just an image. Behind it, you can see the Sea of Galilee. Just decoration.
Here was a painting that I really thought was... I'm sorry. In that church, there was a bunch of art, and here's a painting that I thought was really interesting. A guy from Brazil, I don't know his name, he had made this, and those little tubes at the bottom are paintings you could buy for like $500. So I took a picture instead.
That was under the church, and they still had the original floor. The floor in that church was the original street, so Jesus likely walked in that very spot.
This was at in a Druze village, Delia El Carmel, and that was a fence we painted. I don't have any after pictures. We did a mural there. We painted fences out front. The people were very hospitable. They gave us lots of food, tea. It was very good. The children were so cute. They would scream hi at you, or if they could manage to get their teacher to tell them an English word, they would say, "Hi guys," or something like that. So it was so cute. You couldn't take any pictures of them though.
This is a Druze village, and Druze, it's a highly secretive religion. It's an offshoot of the Muslim religion that some guy at some point wrote 6 religious books. So if you're a Druze, you're only religious if a priest determines you are. So when you're born, the priest examines you, says, oh, this person's religious and this person isn't. If you're not religious, you never pray or anything. If you are religious, you wear specific clothing and you pray. And the best you can hope for, I guess, is to be reincarnated into a religious person. I'm not sure. But the people were very hospitable, very happy to see us. We were first painting the fence. They would drive by us 3 or 4 times. You were starting to wonder if they were going to drive by the next time and shoot you, but nope. They came by the next time and they'd be hanging bags of cookies and bananas and whatever out of their car window for you. And very friendly. Most of them didn't speak English. Melissa was painting in a different location, and I was innocently painting along, and they came along with the car.
Driving in a regular sized car.
And the tour guide and our host in that village. And the streets are about 4.5 feet wide, I swear. And the tour guide was in the back, and he was giggling nervously. And I took that as a really bad sign because he was pretty stoic. But he would not ride in the front seat. He'd forced Ryan to ride in the front seat. So we get in, and you just take off, and the driver honks but never slows down at the intersections. There's no signs. You can't see anything. It was exhilarating.
It's terrifying to ride in a regular sized vehicle if you're not in your big bus. You're not as scared if you hit something in that.
But again, we really couldn't talk to people. Most of them didn't speak English. A few did. They were very busy giving us food, showing us what they wanted painted, bringing us many things to paint, and trying to talk to us. So it was a good day.
This is the wall we painted. Like I said, by the time I was done, my hands were covered in oil paint, and I didn't want to touch my phone, but we did a mural going around that wall. And fun fact, bug killer does not get oil paint off your hands. That was one of the remedies we tried. Paint thinner does, though. I hope I don't have, throat cancer now.
How'd you drink it?
No, but I ate right after I put it on my hands, so. This is actually in the home. This is where I had my paint thinner meal. And the man who owns this house, his son was a victim of the suicide attack, and so he gave his son's testimony to us, basically a story of his life a little bit. We sat and ate and talked, and he led us into his room and just to listen to his story and know that he's heard. And so that one was a hard one to watch, just to see the people that are impacted by things like that. I mean, you can only read so much in the news or someone who wasn't there.
It is hard hard to sum up a trip like that in 20 minutes. We spent about 10 days there, probably 10 hours a day. It was very, very busy. I'm just very thankful I had the opportunity to go, and I want to thank everybody that helped support our trip, whether it was prayer or monetary donation. I really appreciate it.
We have lots more pictures if anyone wants to look, but
I think we have 2,400.
Yeah. But considering we're already almost 15 minutes over, we will let you guys go. But if you want to ask us any questions or see more pictures, we'll be happy to show you.
I'm going to stick these in your belly.
Anybody have questions?
No.
I'm sure they will love to have anybody come by and visit and look at more of the pictures. I'm just fascinated by the amount of information that you were able to absorb being there. I know Nicole told me that she has tried to do some research online of the different places and learn as much as she can after being there. I have never been to Israel, but I have watched people who have, and to see the impact that it has on your life when you actually get to see what was going on there, and you see a lot of the things that the Bible talks about. She said at one time, and I think it should be reiterated, is going there verifies the Bible instead of the other way. It proves that the Bible can be trustworthy. And by going there and you see that evidence in front of you, it reminds you that if the Bible's true about how Jericho fell, how much more true will it be? And the same amount is true. That God loves you, God cares for you, and He sent His Son to die for you. So I just think that was an awesome time. Thank you, ladies. I'm sure I will come by and visit and look at more pictures because I love hearing the history. And I think it's so neat that you now know about the tunnel that was dug for water. And that's stuff that you don't get unless you read through the Bible and you get to the parts where it's not as exciting as other parts. And you learn about things like that. So let's close with a word of prayer, and then we will spend our time with fellowship. And Father, we thank you so much for this day. I thank you for making that trip possible for Nicole and Melissa. I thank you for what you're doing in their lives. Thank you for how much they've grown because of the trip. But Lord, that they can now share with their church family some interesting tidbits and some facts as they were able to go over and see that area where you did so much in history. Lord, we ask that you be with us as we spend our time of fellowship and food. I ask you to bless the food and that fellowship in Jesus' name. Amen. Yes.